Welcome to another edition of Speak Your Piece with Ronnie Q. I'm your host, Ronnie Q. Hey, today we're going to talk about personal expectations and how expectations can be very detrimental to others and how they can be very disappointing to some because they aren't being met. They aren't being met, so to speak. I find that setting expectations is a very difficult aspect in life because oftentimes, even as we become adults or as we're children or teenagers or anything else, certain expectations are placed upon us when we are in our process of growing, and process of learning and understanding. The expectation is set because others sometimes live vicariously through us, and they expect us to adhere to a certain type of dynamic that they're used to. They don't understand the dichotomy of how much that is pressuring others and how it weighs on them and how it burdens them because they cannot be who they are because you or someone else is expecting them to be something that they are. Let's look at it from a point of view of this point. When you are a child, you are expected to follow the rules, do as you're told, go to sleep when you're supposed to, eat when you're supposed to, go outside when you're supposed to, do your homework, do everything that every adult says. That's an expectation as a child. And oftentimes we follow that unencumbered, unhindered. We follow that because it's been a standard that's set in place. The expectation of other adults, the child follows the parent, or should you say, the elder, or the legacy, whatever else. As teenagers, we're told the same thing. Follow the rules, do as you're told, don't question authority, don't question anyone else, because you don't have, the authority. And because you're not at all. But when you get older and you're in full adulthood, you're moving about the world, you're learning things still, then when those kind of expectations of how people tend to weigh them on you and burden them with how can I say it? They burden you with it. Let's just be honest with that. Because an expectation is just that. It is an expectation. You can't expect someone to follow a rule that you yourself cannot adhere to at times. Oftentimes people say, well, I want you to do A, B, C, D, and E. But yet they themselves, being hypocritical in their thinking, not even recognizing it consciously, they don't do that, but they expect you to. They're living vicariously through you because their actions are supposed to be followed, but you can't tell them the same thing. You can't follow suit and say, look, I did what you were doing. Oh, but you expect me to do what you told me to do, but I'm still doing what you're doing. It's sort of a double-edged sword. You can't really please the world. You can't please others with expectation because oftentimes when you go over and over and over with an expectation, people tend to get very resentful with that. The resentment builds over time, whether you believe it or not. Some of the nicest people, some of the most caring and understanding and completely very, very calm people can turn hostile and can turn vengeful and vindictive because when set with an expectation over time, every single day, and we're bombarded with the same idealisms and the same thought processes that aren't their own, they tend to hold it in. It turns inward. It doesn't be expressed outward because often they don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to argue with anybody. They don't want to create conflict. They don't want to be contradictory. They don't want to create any type of conflict. And then when it explodes and everything implodes and everything goes completely off the rails, then suddenly it's, well, why are you acting like that? Why are you doing this? Why are you saying that? And you expect the world to what's the word? You expect the world to be giving and forthright and very comfortable with the way that is. It's it's a hard pill to swallow. It is. Excuse me. It's a very hard pill to swallow. And it's so much. and it's so heaviness, and it becomes so suffocating that you don't know where to put it. So often when the outburst comes and the rage and the resentment builds up, and the anger spills out, it's not anything as a personal attack on you as a person. It is your expectation you set upon that person that has garnered such a sense of dread. And oftentimes people get defensive because they don't know, either they want to run or they want to fight you. It's like, that fight or flight, the whole thing. The reality is, if you cannot live by your own expectations, why should others? Why should anybody else? Why should anyone? But that's the hypocritical thinking we often have to deal with, because it doesn't register with some people. It just doesn't. Because they tend to think, oh, I'm right, you're wrong, you do it this way, and this is the only way to do it. And while they're doing that, they're distancing themselves from others, because they don't realize that by setting such high expectations and high levels of standard and high levels of perfection that they think that exists. Because first of all, let's go back to how something does not exist as far as perfection. Perfection isn't ideal. It is something that we think. It is something that we believe it exists, but it doesn't. Perfection is a not true manifestation into reality. It is an ideal. It is a thought process. It is an opinion. It is a literal oxymoron. Let's put it that way. And then you push that expectation of perfection and idealism on someone, and it weighs them. It hurts them. But you don't see that. All you see is somebody that's not doing what you want, doing what you say, going about things the right way. That is not a way to communicate back and forth with one another. It is a pleasantry for someone who's doing it, because they feel like, oh, I told them what to do, I told them how to do it, fine, and I'm going to continue to do so. And oftentimes people feel like that's an emotional attack. You have to find a way better to communicate and be communicative with people when you want them to understand where you're coming from. And setting expectations on someone who's not willing, or who's not ready, or who's not even, bothering you. Come on now. People tend to want to live the way they want to live. You can't live vicariously to others forever. Let's put it that way. And my final thought on this: if you can't live the way you expect somebody else to live, then why should they live the way that you want them to? You can't expect somebody to live that way. It's very detrimental to their whole growth process, especially when they've been, put through life in a harsh reality. Compassion is a necessity. Let's put it that way. Understanding is a necessity. And with that said, this has been Ronnie Hugh. Speak your peace. Like, subscribe, TikTok, Instagram,